What if everything you have been taught about money, budgeting, and investing has been keeping you broke in a very polished, responsible-looking way? Most people spend decades feeling guilty about lattes, arguing about credit card points, and waiting for the perfect moment to start investing, while quietly falling further behind financially. Ramit Sethi wrote, "I will teach you to be rich to end that cycle permanently. This is not a book about cutting back or living small. It is a blueprint for building a rich life on your own terms, starting right now." Ramit Sethi is not a typical financial guru. He does not have a wall of diplomas or a hedge fund pedigree. He built his financial philosophy the same way most of us did, by being a young person trying to figure out why nobody taught us how money actually works. He launched his blog in 2004 while studying at Stanford, and it eventually became one of the most widely read personal finance platforms in the world. This book, now in its second edition and updated for a new generation, distills everything he learned into a no-excuses 6-week program that genuinely works for real people with real lives and real spending habits. By the time this analysis is finished, you will understand how to automate your money so it works without willpower, how to negotiate your salary and credit card terms with total confidence, how to invest intelligently without becoming obsessed with the stock market, and how to define what a rich life actually means to you personally. We are on a mission to reach 100 subscribers, and every single person counts. If this kind of knowledge is valuable to you, share this video right now with a friend, a family member, or anyone in your circle who deserves a real financial advantage. Subscribe to the Book Vault, hit that like button, and let us build this community together. The Vault belongs to everyone who is serious about changing their future. The Strategic Breakdown: Optimize Your Credit Cards. We begin where most financial conversations refuse to go, and that is with credit cards. Ramit opens the book by making a bold, counterintuitive claim. Credit cards, used correctly, are one of the most powerful financial tools available to young people. Most financial advice treats credit cards like landmines you must carefully avoid. Ramit treats them like leverage. The difference between those two mindsets is enormous, and it separates people who win financially from people who stay anxious and confused about debt their entire lives. The first move Ramit teaches is to call your credit card company and negotiate. Most people do not know this is even possible, but Sethi is specific. If you have had the card for at least a year and have a decent payment history, you can call and ask to have your annual fee waived, your interest rate lowered, or a late fee removed. His data suggests that the majority of people who actually make this call get at least one of these things. The bank would rather keep you than lose you. That fact alone is worth thousands of dollars over a lifetime of banking relationships. Credit card rewards, when used intelligently, are free money. Cashback cards, travel points, and sign-on bonuses represent real value that most people ignore because they are afraid of credit cards entirely. Ramit is not telling you to spend irresponsibly. He is telling you that if you are going to spend anyway, you should be earning rewards for doing it. The critical discipline is simple: pay the full balance every single month. Interest charges will erase every reward you earn, so the system only works if you treat the card like a debit card backed by a rewards engine. Beat the banks. Now we move into one of the chapters that quietly saves people thousands of dollars before they even begin investing, and that is the chapter about beating the banks. The banking system is designed to keep your money working for the bank, not for you. Standard savings accounts at major brick-and-mortar banks often pay interest rates so low they are almost insulting. Ramit's core message here is direct. Move your money to a high-yield online savings account and stop donating your interest to a corporation that spends it on marble lobbies. Ramit recommends separating your checking and savings accounts, ideally at different institutions. Your checking account handles the daily flow of money. Your savings account holds your emergency fund and your targeted savings goals. Because they are different institutions, there is a psychological friction to moving the money, which turns out to be protective. You are less likely to raid your savings when it takes a day or two to transfer. This is not clever counting. It is behavioral architecture, designing your environment so that the smart choice becomes the easy choice. The key metrics to look for in a bank are no minimum balance requirements, no monthly fees, and a strong APY on savings. Every dollar sitting in a zero-interest checking account is losing value to inflation every single year. Ramit is ruthless about this because the math is simple. Over 20 or 30 years, the difference between a low-yield account and a competitive high-yield account is staggering. This chapter is not glamorous, but it is the kind of fundamental move that separates the financially disciplined from the financially drifting. Get ready to invest. The next chapter addresses the single biggest financial mistake an entire generation has made, and that is waiting too long to invest. Ramit introduces the concept here not as something complex or intimidating, but as the most important thing you can do in your 20s and 30s. The central idea is compound interest, and while most people have heard the phrase, very few have actually internalized how violent its effects are over time. Starting 10 years earlier can mean the difference between retiring comfortably and working indefinitely. Ramit uses a specific example that is hard to forget. If you invest $200 per month beginning at age 25 and stop at 35, never adding another dollar, you will end up with more money at 65 than someone who starts at 35 and invests $200 every single month until retirement. That example is not an abstraction. It is a mathematical reality that should make every person in their 20s feel a sense of urgency that no amount of motivational content can manufacture. Time in the market is the only irreplaceable asset in personal finance. The psychological obstacle Ramit attacks in this chapter is perfectionism. Most people do not invest because they are waiting until they understand the market better, or until their finances feel more stable, or until they find the perfect investment. Ramit is direct. A suboptimal plan started today beats a perfect plan started 5 years from now every single time. The goal is to begin, automate, and then largely stop paying attention to the noise. This chapter sets the philosophical foundation for everything that follows. Conscious spending. We now enter one of the most liberating and strategically clever chapters in the book, the chapter that Ramit calls conscious spending. Every other personal finance book tells you to budget. Ramit tells you that budgeting is a psychological failure waiting to happen. Budgets feel like diets. They work for a few weeks and then collapse under the weight of real life. Conscious spending works differently. Instead of restricting everything equally, it asks you to identify what you genuinely love spending money on, and then spend lavishly on those things while cutting aggressively on everything else. The framework is built around 4 buckets. Fixed costs cover your rent, utilities, and subscriptions. Investments handle your retirement contributions and long-term savings. Savings cover short-term goals like vacations, emergencies, or a future car. And guilt-free spending is the percentage allocated to whatever brings you actual joy, whether that is dining out, shoes, travel, or video games. Ramit recommends rough target percentages for each bucket, but the philosophy is more important than the exact numbers. You're designing a spending system that reflects your actual values, not a punishing regime built around what you think you should want. What makes this chapter so powerful is the permission it grants. Ramit openly tells readers that he spends thousands of dollars on eating out without guilt because he has automated his savings and investments first. The sequence matters enormously. When the important financial obligations are handled automatically before the money hits your checking account, what remains is genuinely yours to spend without shame. That shift in psychology, from scarcity thinking to intentional abundance, is one of the book's most valuable gifts to readers who have spent years feeling like financial failures. Say while sleeping here is where the book becomes operationally powerful, and this is the chapter about saving while sleeping. Ramit introduces the concept of automating your entire financial system so that the right things happen every month without requiring willpower, discipline, or even your attention. He calls this the automatic money flow, and it is the structural backbone of the entire program. The idea is that human beings are unreliable. We forget, we procrastinate, we spend money we intended to save. A well-designed automated system removes the human from the equation entirely. The architecture is elegant in its simplicity. Your paycheck lands in your checking account. From there, automated transfers send predetermined percentages to your Roth IRA, your savings account, and any investment account you have set up. Your fixed bills are paid automatically on their due dates. What is left in checking after all of this is your guilt-free spending money for the month. You do not need to track it, agonize over it, or feel guilty about it. The system handled the responsible part before you even logged in. This is exactly how wealthy people manage money, not through obsessive monitoring, but through systems that work silently in the background. Ramit walks through specific accounts, specific transfer amounts, and specific timing sequences to set this up. He recommends automating your retirement contributions on the same day your paycheck arrives. He emphasizes linking accounts so that the transfers require no manual action, and he makes an important point that most people overlook. Automating your finances is a one-time investment of a few hours that pays returns every single month for the rest of your life. That is one of the best time-to-value ratios in any area of personal development. America's Piggy Bank. The next insight takes us deeper into a strategic wealth conversation that most people never have with themselves, the chapter about using your employer's retirement program as one of the most powerful investment vehicles available. Ramit calls it America's Piggy Bank, and the vehicle he is describing is the 401k. If your employer offers a matching contribution and you are not contributing at least enough to capture the full match, you are leaving free money on the table every single paycheck. That statement is not hyperbole. It is literally free compensation being offered to you that you are choosing to decline. Ramit explains the tax advantages with unusual clarity. A traditional 401k reduces your taxable income today, meaning you pay taxes later when you withdraw in retirement. A Roth option works in reverse. You pay taxes now, and the growth and withdrawals are tax-free later. For most young people, Ramit recommends the Roth IRA as a priority. The logic is that you are likely in a lower tax bracket now than you will be later in life, and locking in that lower rate today creates compounding tax-free growth over decades. The Roth IRA contribution limits are modest, but the long-term impact is extraordinary. The chapter ends with a strong reminder about what Ramit calls the ladder of personal finance priorities. Capture your full employer match first, then max your Roth IRA, then return to your 401k for additional contributions. Then move to taxable investment accounts if you have further capacity. This ladder is not arbitrary. It is designed to maximize tax efficiency at every step. Following it mechanically, without overthinking it, is one of the clearest paths to financial security available to a working American. How to invest. Now we arrive at the chapter that the entire book has been building toward, and Ramit calls it the investment chapter. Everything before this has been preparation, building the accounts, automating the flow, eliminating wasteful fees, and capturing employer matching. Now the money is in place. The question becomes how to actually invest it intelligently without becoming a full-time market analyst or falling for the myths that the financial media perpetuates about picking winning stocks. Ramit's answer is clear, research-backed, and deeply reassuring for people who are not financial professionals. The core philosophy Ramit endorses is passive index fund investing. Index funds are funds that track the performance of a broad market index like the S&P 500 rather than attempting to beat the market through active selection. The evidence supporting passive investing over active management is overwhelming. Decades of research confirm that the vast majority of professional fund managers fail to outperform simple index funds over long-time horizons, especially after accounting for their management fees. Ramit delivers this truth plainly, which is refreshing, given how much financial industry noise exists to convince you otherwise. The specific product Ramit recommends for most investors is a target date retirement fund. These funds automatically adjust their asset allocation over time, moving from aggressive equity positions in your younger years to conservative bond-heavy positions as you approach retirement. You picked a fund that matches your approximate retirement year, contribute regularly, and leave it alone. The fund manages itself. This is not a lazy approach. It is an evidence-based, cost-efficient strategy that has historically outperformed the attempts of most individual investors to be clever with their portfolios. A rich life. The final chapter of the strategic breakdown takes a step back from systems and mechanics to address the deeper question that all the financial architecture is actually serving, and that is the question of what a rich life means to you. Ramit is unusually direct about the fact that money is not the goal. Money is the instrument. The people who are most financially motivated are rarely motivated by dollar amounts. They are motivated by the experiences, freedom, security, relationships, and contributions that money makes possible. Defining your rich life with specificity is not a luxury exercise. It is a strategic necessity. Ramit challenges readers to articulate exactly what they want money to do for their lives. Not generic answers like financial freedom or early retirement, but specific, personal, almost embarrassingly detailed visions. Do you want to fly business class to visit family twice a year without stress? Do you want to pay for your parents to live comfortably? Do you want a home with a specific kind of kitchen? Do you want to never check a bank balance before buying a book? These specifics matter because they determine how much you actually need and what you are actually optimizing for. A vague goal produces vague behavior, which produces vague results. This chapter also introduces the idea that spending money on things you love is not a moral failure. The cultural guilt around spending, especially in personal finance communities, creates a bizarre situation where people feel bad about enjoying their money, even after they have handled all their financial responsibilities. Ramit argues that building a rich life requires spending money intentionally and without apology on the things that genuinely matter to you. The system he has built throughout the entire book is designed to make that guilt-free spending possible, not to eliminate spending entirely. Key lessons and insights: automate everything or trust nothing. The first lesson this book delivers with absolute authority, and perhaps the most structurally important insight in the entire program, is that automation is not a convenience, but a survival strategy. Ramit builds his entire system on the premise that human willpower is not a reliable financial tool. We are tired, distracted, emotional, and inconsistent. A financial life that depends on us making the right decision every day will eventually fail. But a financial life built on automated systems that move money correctly before we even see it will succeed, almost regardless of our emotional state on any given day. Automation removes the variable of human fallibility from the equation entirely. The practical application of this lesson is immediate and specific. Open a high-yield savings account this week. Set up an automatic transfer from your checking account on the day after your paycheck arrives. Even if the amount is small to start, the habit of automation is worth more than the dollar amount. Then log into your employer's retirement plan and confirm your contribution is set to at least the amount that captures full employer matching. These two actions alone, if you never did anything else, would put most people ahead of the majority of their peers financially. The system does not need to be perfect. It needs to exist. Spend lavishly on what you love and cut mercilessly on what you do not. The second lesson challenges the most deeply held assumption in mainstream personal finance, and that is the idea that financial success requires uniform deprivation. Ramit teaches that the goal is not to spend less on everything, but to spend more intentionally. His conscious spending philosophy asks you to identify the categories of your life where money genuinely adds to your happiness and fulfillment, and then to spend on those categories without guilt, while reducing spending dramatically in areas that do not move the needle for you personally. This is not permission to be reckless. It is a framework for spending that actually reflects who you are. The real-world application is harder than it sounds because it requires honesty. Most people have not seriously asked themselves what they actually enjoy spending money on versus what they spend money on out of habit, social pressure, or default. Ramit suggests a simple audit. Look at your last 3 months of bank statements and categorize your spending. Then ask for each category whether it genuinely adds joy or fulfillment to your life. The categories that do not pass that test are candidates for dramatic reduction. The money freed up can flow toward the categories that do, or toward your automated investment accounts. The goal is alignment between spending and values. Start investing early and stop trying to be clever. The third lesson is one of the most financially consequential truths in the book, and it is this: the timing of when you start investing matters far more than how sophisticated your investment strategy is. Ramit returns to this point repeatedly because the compounding math is so powerful and so underappreciated. A person who starts investing modest amounts in their mid-20s and never increases their contributions will likely end up wealthier retirement than someone who waits until their 30s to start, even if the later starter invests significantly more per month. Time is the only input into compound interest that money cannot buy back. The related application of this lesson is to resist the temptation to delay investing while you search for the perfect portfolio or wait for market conditions to improve. Ramit is blunt about this. Every year of delay costs you more than any investment mistake you are likely to make. The correct strategy for most people is to set up a target date index fund through their Roth IRA and 401k, automate contributions, and then stop paying close attention to the market. The strategy is intentionally boring. Consistent, automated investing beats clever active investing over virtually every measured time horizon in the historical record. Negotiate everything and treat it as a skill. The fourth lesson Ramit instills is one that extends far beyond personal finance into every dimension of professional and economic life, and it is the idea that negotiation is a learnable skill that most people opt out of because of social anxiety. Ramit teaches readers to negotiate credit card fees, negotiate salary, negotiate apartment rent, and negotiate the terms of every financial relationship they enter. Most people accept the first number they are given because asking feels uncomfortable or presumptuous. But the financial industry is built on the assumption that most customers will not push back. The ones who do push back consistently win. The salary negotiation section is particularly powerful and worth internalizing completely. Ramit shows that a single successful salary negotiation early in your career creates a compounding effect that follows you for decades. Because future salaries are often anchored to current ones, getting an extra $5,000 at 26 can mean tens of thousands of additional dollars by the time you are 40. He provides specific scripts for how to respond when asked about salary expectations, how to counter a low offer, and how to handle the discomfort of silence after making your number. These are learnable, practicable skills that no one teaches in school. Define your rich life before the system defines it for you. The fifth and final lesson is the most philosophically important insight in the entire book, and it is one that Ramit returns to as the foundation of everything else he teaches. Money without a defined destination is just a number. Most people are accumulating wealth toward a vague future without ever articulating what they are actually building toward. Ramit insists that defining your rich life, with real specificity and personal honesty, is not a soft exercise. It is the strategic prerequisite for making every other financial decision with clarity and confidence. You cannot optimize a journey if you do not know the destination. The practical action this lesson demands is a specific kind of written reflection. Sit down and write out what a rich life looks like for you across multiple dimensions. What does your daily life look like? What do you own? Where do you travel? How do you spend time? What relationships are central? What work do you do? How much freedom do you have? Getting this specific changes how you allocate money immediately, because suddenly every financial decision can be evaluated against a real personal vision. That test, does this move me toward my rich life or away from it, turns out to be one of the clearest financial filters available. The Vault Closing. What Ramit Sethi built in this book is more than a financial program. It is an argument against a culture of financial guilt, shame, and complexity that keeps intelligent, capable people from building the lives they are fully capable of creating. Most financial advice operates on the assumption that you need more discipline, more restraint, more sacrifice. Ramit's argument is the opposite. You need better systems, more self-knowledge, and the courage to spend money on what actually matters to you while handling the fundamentals automatically. That reframe alone is worth more than most financial advice combined. Here is your one specific action for the next 7 days. Open a Roth IRA account if you do not have one already. There are clear, low-cost providers available to you, and the account opening process takes less than 20 minutes. If you already have one, log in and confirm your contribution is automated and going toward a target date index fund. If you have neither, spend 1 hour this week mapping your conscious spending plan across Ramit's 4 buckets. Any one of these actions, completed this week rather than someday, will put real distance between you and the financial average. That distance compounds just like interest. The Book Vault exists for exactly this reason. To give ambitious people access to the strategic intelligence inside the world's most important books without the noise, without the fluff, and without the weeks it takes to read them all. If this analysis gave you even one insight that genuinely moves you forward, please hit like, subscribe to the Book Vault, and drop your biggest takeaway in the comments below. Your comment helps other ambitious people find this content, and it becomes part of a community of thinkers who refuse to accept a financially average life. The vault is always open for those who are serious about building something real.